and I had to learn how to draw water from the well. For the first time in my life, and I've not done it since, I kept a diary of my impressions every day. My grandparents, my uncles and aunts, my cousins, who lived in a different world. I knew they were living under terrible conditions because every month my mom would send back a small remittance. And when I was a teenager, I would do it for her at the local Bank of China branch in Katong. Make the remittance and then paper-thin receipt, which tore easily. During the Cultural Revolution, every Bank of China branch was a den of propaganda, and I used to collect propaganda materials surreptitiously, because who knows, the government might arrest me for collecting the material, and read them in my room. During the Great Famine of the early 60s, they were starving back in China. And relatives here would buy pork lard, salted them, packed them into kerosene tins, sealed them, and sent them back to China. And that kept entire families alive. But during the Cultural Revolution, those with relatives overseas were considered to be under bourgeois influence. And a number of my cousins could not go to university because of that association. I've been back since. I brought my wife and then later my children so that they know where their grandparents came from. Where was their wedding room, where my mom did the kindergarten at primary school, paying respects at the ancestral temple and so on. Why do I do all this? I don't know. But when I read Barack Obama's book, I could immediately relate his experience to my own experience in wanting to know, who am I? And I believe at some points in your life, every individual wants to know, who am I? Where did I come from? And every individual has a different story. A couple of weeks ago, I hosted a visit by a deputy governor from Yemen. He's from the southern Yemen, where 5 million Arabs in Southeast Asia were from originally. A part of the Yemen, very dry, called the Hadramaut. When Stanford Raffles founded Singapore, he knew that to get the economy going, he needed to bring in Arab traders from Yemen. During the Napoleonic Wars, he was in Java, running the place for 5 years. And in all the cities of Java, there were thriving Arab communities. So he got Syed Omar Al-Junid from Palembang in Sumatra to relocate to Singapore. Hence Omar Mosque, hence Madrasah Al-Junid, hence Al-Junid GRC, of which I'm a member of parliament. The deputy governor whom I hosted, Ahmad Junid Al-Junid, is a great-great-great-grandnephew of the man who gave my constituency his name. And there are many Al-Junids in Singapore and in Southeast Asia, all their relatives, all keeping genealogical family records, knowing whom they are related to. If you speak to Indians, if you speak to Malays, everyone has a story to tell. Singapore is an interesting city-state because we are founded not on the narrow sense of what it means to be Singaporean, but by a deep respect for the roots of each and every of its citizens. You can be a Chinese, you can be an Indonesian, you can be an Indian, a Eurasian, you can be a Hindu or Buddhist or Sikh. That aspect of you, which you inherited from your forefathers, we respect, we celebrate. Being Singaporean is a relatively current phenomenon. Of course, we hope that that layer of us, which is Singaporean, will over time thicken, giving us our bonds of solidarity and family. But we create those bonds not by refusing each individual his roots to the past, but by helping him maintain his roots to the past. Without those roots, an individual, a tribe, a community cannot be strong. Those who are cut off at their knees often grow up disoriented, depressed. There was a time in Australia when they thought that the best way to pole vault the Aboriginal community to the 20th century was to take their children forcibly from their parents and educate them in national schools. Far from succeeding, the result was a horrible tragedy which Prime Minister Rudd apologized for not long after he assumed office. Same problem with the American Indians in North America, many of whom are cut off from their roots, and a community now plagued by high unemployment, high alcoholism. In Singapore, we have a diverse heritage, and we protect the diverse heritage. And that heritage also connects us to other parts of the world. So as you grow up, in your own way, each of you, in the course of your journeys, you'll find out more about yourself. In discovering yourself, I hope you will develop a greater respect for others. The key to being a human being is that we're all different. If we are the same, we are not human beings. Think about that. The last Pope, John Paul II, this philosophy underpinned his view of life. I knew a Roman cardinal whom I once hosted at my house, and he was a personal assistant to the Pope. And he told me this story. One day he was drafting a speech for the Pope because bishops from all over the world were gathering. And he included a sentence that despite our differences, we are one. When the Pope saw it, he scratched out the word despite. He inserted the word because. Because we are different, so we are one. Not despite our differences, we are one. What did he mean by that? Because each of us is unique, each life is a drama, each with its promise. And until we recognize the individual character, we can't have a proper relationship with one another. If the basis of a relationship is that you become like me, or you do what I want you to do, then you are less of an individual. It's something to think about, and something which is what makes us what we are as Singaporeans. It is not a small idea, it is a big idea. And what we want is to create a big Singapore idea.